Maqasidic Tafsir.
Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Pursuing the higher aim, learning the meaning of every page. Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Assalamu alaikum. Sunnahfollowers presents a new class, the Maqasidic Tafsir, being taught and brought to you by Ustada Layla Nashiba. Please stay tuned, streaming on all major platforms, right here on channel Sunnahfollowers.
It's me. Okay, I think you guys can hear me. Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our new series entitled the Maqasidic Tafsir. And this is another series of books written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. And we will, inshallah, go through all of these books as well. And this is the first book, Volume 1. And for those of you who have not yet purchased this book, please go to Amazon, amazon.com. The book is only $19.99. This whole series should be a part of everyone's library as well. The thing that I like about Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, he breaks this religion down in good English. There's not that many books that go into detail about the correct belief system in English. You know, a lot of books, you know, are written in Arabic, but not in English. So I really like how this brother has dedicated his life to taking the books in Arabic that are popular in Arabic and making them into English, and also developing his own books like this that help to explain to the English-speaking world the difference between interpretations of the Quran. And that's what this is all about. Hold on for 1 second. I gotta take this. Hello?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. What, can I call you back? I'm in a class. Was something important? It wasn't?
No.
Okay.
Call me back this time.
Yeah, I'll call you back. I'm teaching the Maqasidic Tafsir of Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Maqasidic.
Mukhtasar?
Yeah, so I said it wrong. Let me hear you say it again. Say it again.
How you spell it?
Maqasidic. Maqasidic Tafsir. Oh, so
M-A-Q-A.
yes. S-I-D-I-C. I'm pronouncing it wrong. I know. Hold on, guys. This is my brother, the one that speaks the Arabic. So, because they always make fun of me. How do you pronounce that word, Issa?
You said M-A-Q-A.
Yes.
D.
S-I-D-I-C. M-A. Yeah, M-A-Q-A-S-I-D-I-C.
Muqaddasic?
That's it. I can't say it again. Maqasidic. So it's not Maqasidic, it's Maqasidic. Maqasidic.
I don't know if I'm saying it right. I never heard that word, but I don't know. I have to see it in Arabic, then I'll know for sure.
He don't even know it. He don't even know what I'm talking about. That's how bad I must sound pretty bad, because when I did it to Dr. Asim, he didn't know what I was talking about either. And I got some Arabic brothers that listen to me here from the Emirates, and they say your Arabic really is bad, Layla.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, look it up, and it's the Tafsir. It's the book by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, Pursuing the Higher Aim of the Qur'anic Scripture. Look at it up on Amazon, and then let me know how to pronounce it correctly, because everybody make fun of me for how I pronounce it. And Dr. Asim didn't know what I was talking about either. He said, "What are you saying?" you know, because I haven't seen it in Arabic either. If I saw it written in Arabic, I could probably pronounce it too. Yeah. So I just say Maqasidic. Yeah, just look his books up and tell me the correct way so these brothers will stop making fun of me in the Emirates. All right. Okay. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, he'll figure it out for me. Now, that's a shame, Fresno. Remember when I tried to say it with Dr. Asim? He didn't know what I was talking about. We'll figure it out. But one thing Dr. Asim did say to me, he said, so what, they make fun of you? You may not know how to pronounce it, but at least you know what it means. And I do. I know what it means. It means, in fact, let's give you a quiz. What do we mean by Maqasidic Tafsir? When we are speaking about Maqasidic Tafsir, what are we speaking about? Anybody? What does the Maqasidic Tafsir refer to? What are we referring to? Come on, people, wake up. Like Dr. Asim say, at least I know what I'm talking about and know what it means. Hello. People can sing the Quran, but do they know what they saying? No, I do. What's meant by Maqasidic Tafsir? Anyone? Anybody here for the class? Maybe I need to just...
The highest and most correct, clear understanding based on the companion's understanding.
Good job. Faiza, you know how to pronounce that word? Or you have to see it in Arabic too? Do you know how to pronounce it, Faiza? Faiza. What happened, y'all? She can't hear. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, I'm breaking up. No, I don't understand. I don't know how to pronounce it. I have to see in Arabic too.
Like Isa too. So now you see what Isa and Dr. Asim told me. They said, what are you trying to say? Faiza speaks Arabic too, y'all. They got to see it in Arabic. They don't know what I'm saying. I guess I butchered the word, but that's what it means. The Maqasidic Tafsir, it's the interpretation of the Quran, the highest, the most correct interpretation based on the understanding of the meaning that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had and his companions. Okay, everybody got it. And that's all that's important, whether we know how to pronounce it correctly. If I saw it in Arabic, I could probably read it too, but we don't. Sheikh Kareem put it in English for everybody here. So, because this is an English, book, but mashallah, that's what it's about. And we've spoken about the different tafsir. Tafsir itself is an Arabic word. What does tafsir refer to? Anybody here? What does tafsir? When you hear the Arabic word tafsir, and I am pronouncing that right. When you hear the Arabic word tafsir, what does tafsir refer to in English? What does it mean? We're speaking about what about the Quran? If I tell you I'm going to give you the tafsir of a verse of the Quran, what am I going to give you? Some money?
Interpretation, clarification. Explanation.
Okay, good job. I'm going to give you the interpretation or the explanation or the clarification of a verse of the Quran. Good job, Miss Jackson. Good job, Sakina. And for the people who do the interpreting for us, what Arabic term do we call the person that interprets? Can y'all remember that Arabic term?
The Musafir.
Say it again. You had it right, I think, but just couldn't hear you. Your mic. Go ahead.
The Musafir.
Exactly, the Musafir. Exactly. Good job. So the person that is doing the interpretation or the explanation for you, we call him the mufassir. Okay, that's that Arabic term. He's the interpreter. Tafsir. I'm giving you the interpretation of the meaning. I'm giving you the explanation of the meaning. Good job, Sakina. So, Dr. Dramali is teaching a class, a Quran class on the meaning of Surat Nisa and Surat Baqarah. He's a mufassir. He's the interpreter. He's giving you the interpretation of the meaning. Now, answer me this. We talked about how there are two types of interpretations of the Quran. What are the two types of interpretations? Who can answer that question? What are the two types of interpretation of the Quran?
Evidence and opinion.
Good job. Evidence-based interpretation. Good job, Fresno. Or opinion-based interpretation. Can anybody remember what the Arabic term is that's used for evidence-based? And I know Arabic is not your language. It's hard to remember. I want to try to drill these terms. You don't have to learn Arabic to be a Muslim or to even teach or understand it, but there are some Arabic words we do need to know. Good job. You have to know Tafsir Bil Matur. Tafsir Bil Matur. That is the evidence-based interpretation. And what's the other one? Good job, Miss Jackson. What's the other type of evidence? The other type of interpretation. You have Tafsir al-Matur, and the one we talked about last week, which is Tafsir Bil what?
Bil Rayi.
Rayi.
Yeah, Rayi.
Remember, I didn't pronounce that right with Dr. Dramali. The other day he said, what are you talking about? But it's Rayi. Okay? Tafsir Bil Rayi. This refers to opinions. I'm going to give you the explanation of a verse of the Quran based on my opinion. Whereas Tafsir Bil Matur, I'm going to give you the interpretation or the explanation of a verse based on evidence. And what is the evidence? What is the evidence that we use? What is the evidence that the mufassir uses to give his interpretation? What evidence does he use? Anyone? What's the basis of his evidence? Come on. Is it a fatwa from off of Islam Q&A? Is it a lecture that Omar Solomon gave? What is the evidence that the mufassir uses to explain the meaning? Good job, Miss Jackson. The hadiths. And also, he may use another verse of the Quran. Good job. That's been explained by the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or another verse from the Quran that's been explained by one of the companions. Or he may use a hadith from the companions. Good job. You guys are doing a great job with this. Those are the basics of what we covered so far. And between the two different types of explanation, between the two different types, which is most reliable? Tafsir Bil Matur, which is evidence-based, or Tafsir Bil Rayi, which is opinion-based?
The first one. The first one.
Good job. Good job. Tafsir Bil Rayi. Evidence always out trumps opinion. And I want you all to remember that. Evidence will always out trump opinion. So when we ended the last class we had for this, we talked about how a lot of people question, well, you know, if everything was based on opinion, there would be chaos. Well, we talked about how there are certain guidelines that the scholars put together, the early scholars. I ain't talking about these brothers who are advocating LGBTQ and all that crap of today. I'm talking about the early scholars that were the students of the companions, and etc. They put some guidelines together to keep that in regards to opinion-based explanations or interpretations, so as we as a nation are not led astray. And we're going to talk about that today. And first, I want to give you a quiz. This is a quiz I'm giving you now. Well, I'm giving you a little bit more. I told you this class, by this being a science class, because whenever we're talking about the Quran and the Tafsir, this is a science class. This is a Quranic science class I'm teaching you. So I told you guys you'll have more in-depth quizzes from me. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is the second part, and this second part will also update us to what we're going to be speaking about today. Look at this question here. I wished I could really move this Zoom box out of the way, man. It is aggravating. Now, when we talk about opinion-based interpretation, the interpreter, he bases his interpretations of the Quran on which of the following? Does he base them on the Arabic language? Does he base them on logic? Does he base them on the sciences? Or does he base them on all of the above? What do you think? What do you think? Does he base his interpretations on the Arabic language, on logic, on science, or all of the above? The opinion-based interpreter. Which one of those does he use to base his interpretations on?
All of the above.
MashaAllah, all of the above. He uses all of that. Now, for the evidence-based tafsir, do the evidence-based tafsir use all of these things too?
No.
No, they don't. The evidence-based, they use Arabic, but they leave their logic out of it. They don't use deductive logic, and they don't use flimsy science either. They base it on the hadith. They base it on what the prophet said, what the companions said, how they understood it to be. Okay, but for those using opinions, they use language, logic, science, and that type of thing. And you guys see that this is a problem today. A lot of these brothers today, for example, I told you guys that North American Fit Council here in America, that put out that fatwa saying that women and men should be allowed to pray together in the musalla without a partition, because this is demeaning the women and the prophet didn't do all. They're using logic, science, and everything except the true meaning of the hadiths. They're using everything except the understanding that the companions had. And they claim to be advocating women's rights. That's why they put that fatwa out, telling you to allow the women and men to free mix. They call themselves advocating rights for women, But if they were advocating rights for women, why did they bypass the fatwa of Aisha, radiallahu anha? If these men are scholars, they never heard of Aisha's fatwa on that. They listened to, they made their own fatwas up instead of looking up what Aisha, what Salama, what Zainab, what Hafsa and them had to say about how the women were aligned during the prayer in the prophet's times. But you're advocating feminism. Oh, really? See what happens when we deviate away. So the opinion-based interpreter, he uses the Arabic language, he uses logic, science, and that type of thing. What about this? We also talked about how the opinion-based interpreters, they sometimes use dreams too. If an interpreter is basing his or her interpretation on a dream, then we can accept that. Is that statement true or false? Is that something that we can accept? The fact that I had a dream, and in my dream, I had a dream that we women should stand ankle to ankle, shoulder to shoulder. Can we base it on our dreams?
No, this is false.
False. Good job. No.
False.
No. And by the way, guys, I want you brothers and sisters who can't get past trying to get your dreams interpreted. This is why we don't go around asking people to interpret dreams. This is why the Prophet Muhammad, before he died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, dream interpretation is a gift that Allah gives to all the prophets. All the prophets had that ability. And he said there are some righteous people too who Allah may give it to. But you don't know if that person is righteous or not. You don't know. So, whenever you have a dream, the Prophet said, remember this. All good dreams come from Allah. So if you had a dream that you liked, you simply say, Alhamdulillah, and enjoy it. He said, if you have a bad dream or a disturbing dream, either it came from shaitan or yourself. So simply say, A'udhu Billahi, and don't share that dream with anyone. Does everybody understand? I messed up. I'm sorry. I hit the button. Let me go back. Does everybody understand that? So this is why I tell y'all, we don't go around asking people to interpret dreams for us. Deal with your dreams, because your dreams probably come from yourself or shaitan. Just don't talk about it to nobody and keep it moving. And that's even for people who call themselves scholars. You know, a lot of times you think that Allah is inspiring you, and it's nobody but shaitan. So if a person comes to us and say that they're going to explain the meaning of this hadith or the meaning of this verse based on a dream they had, it's not accepted. We don't accept it. What about this? What if the Quran interpreter belongs to a deviant group? Say, for example, he's one of those radical Sufis, or he's a Shiite, or she's with the Baha'i, or the Nation of Islam, or the Wallace Dean. Do we accept their views? Do we accept their interpretations of the Quran? If that person is known to belong to a group that believes opposite of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, or whose Aqidah is not as it's supposed to be. And we talked about that in our diluting our better class at 6. You have to have the correct aqidah. If that person does not have the correct aqidah, do we accept their views of the Quran or their views of anything?
No, false.
Exactly,
No.
false. No. How can you explain what Allah is saying when you don't truly believe in him? An example, we have a group of Muslims out there. They call themselves people of the Sunnah, but they do not believe that Allah is the creator of evil. If you don't believe that Allah is the creator of evil, then you have denied his qadr, the decree. So you can't tell me anything about Islam. Okay? If you don't believe that Shaitan was a jinn, believe it or not, we got some Muslims who call themselves scholars right here in America. They believe that Shaitan was a fallen angel. They do not believe that Shaitan is a jinn. Well, guess what? Something's wrong with you. We can't accept your word for anything. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind when dealing with the opinion-based tafsir. So now what I'm going to do is talk about the 3 different types. And I want y'all to take notes because on Thursday, I'm going to quiz y'all on today's lecture in the beginning like I did today for last Thursday. Okay? Today, we're going to speak about the 3 different types of opinionated tafsir. And you'll get to see the error with them. And we're covering pages 39 through 42 of the book. And that's the picture of the book. For those of you who have not yet bought the book, go to Amazon.com. It's called the Maqasidic Tafsir, Volume 1 by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. The book is $19.99. It should be a part of every English-speaking Muslim's library because you ain't going to get no better than this in explaining how the scholars, how the people of knowledge break down the Quran to you. Okay? So we'll be covering pages 32 through 42. And let's take a look. And again, we talked about how the opinion-based interpretations, they can be rejected. Some of them can be accepted. Some of them can be blameworthy. And we talked about how the scholars came up with 12 criteria. Number 1, whoever's giving the interpretation, he cannot base his opinion on other crystal clear verses of the Quran. For example, he can't give an opinion on high heel shoes. You can't say that it's haram to wear high heel shoes because Allah says, "Oh, you women who believe, when you go to the marketplace, do not stomp your feet to make yourself public spectacles." That verse is not talking about high heels. It's talking about the bangles. Women stomping their feet to make their bangles jingle, to make sound, to attract men. So if you're giving your opinion based on a crystal clear verse like that, you got to get out of here. We don't accept that. That's why we don't accept that opinion that high heel shoes are haram. Where's your dalil? If you're going to say it's haram, it's got to be a clear verse that says women cannot wear heels. There's nothing that says that. Okay? We also don't accept opinions that are formed when an explanation already exists from the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's use that verse in that case. When Allah sent that verse down, the Prophet Muhammad explained what it meant. He said before Islam, you women would go to the marketplace. You women would put your bangles around your ankles and you'd stand there and stomp your feet to be seen. You don't have to do that anymore. So since the Prophet explained that verse, we can't accept your opinion on that. And also the opinion cannot be based on what you like. And that's the problem today. A lot of these brothers and sisters are putting fatwa, which is opinion, putting their opinions and their interpretations out based on what they like and what they don't like. Islam ain't based on your hawa. It's not based on your desires, your likes. And also, the person giving the interpretation cannot be a deviant. In other words, he cannot be deviant in his aqidah. Your belief system has to be on point. What do I mean by on point? You have to be a person that believes La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, with the understanding of the original companions, not anyone else. You can't be a Mathabian. You can't be following a methab and only believing what your methab says. Okay? And also, you can't be one of those PhD people. What do I mean by that? Because you went to the Kafirs Ivy League school and you got a PhD in philosophy. You got a PhD in science. Now you think that you can interpret the Quran based on science. We don't accept that either. You cannot use science, philosophy, psychology. And that's what we see a lot of today, especially with these women. You will see these women with their YouTube channels. These women don't know nothing about Islam. They don't even know what a menses is. They don't even know the correct way to pray. But they'll say, I have a PhD in psychology. I graduated from the Cambridge University and I hold a PhD in psychology. And I'm going to talk about how to have a happy marriage. I'm going to teach you how to have a happy marriage based on what Sigmund Freud, what Einstein, those women need to go sit down. We can't do that. We don't accept nothing that a person like that has to say until they abandon all that science crap, okay? It's got to be the science of the Quran, not the science of man. Does everybody understand that? We use the science of the Quran, the science of the Hadith, not the science of man. And also, in order for us to accept the opinion-based tafsir, the person has to give evidence to support their opinion. You have to bring the clear verses where the Prophet Muhammad said heels are haram. Or bring me a hadith from one of the original companions where they said clearly that they heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly say a woman cannot wear a heel. If you don't base it on clear evidence, we don't accept it. And again, you can't try to interpret the unseen. Again, you don't use dreams. Again, you cannot try to give your interpretation based on verses that only Allah knows the meaning of. In other words, you can't read more into something than what Allah put there. And also, you have to know the Arabic language. You do have to know the linguistics, and that's another problem. Most Muslims today do not speak Fusha. They do not speak the original Arabic, and they don't know the grammar of it. They don't know the manipulation, how to manipulate it correctly. Okay? And you also have to explain your interpretation in a way that supports how the prophet explained it, or the companions, not a deviant sect. And again, your interpretations cannot contradict Islam. For example, we got some Muslims. Let's talk about the Islamic Fiqh Council of Europe. The Islamic Fiqh Council of Europe has a fatwa out that says you can eat pork. Oh, yeah. They say as long as you cook the pork, boil the pork in water that is hot enough for a certain amount of time, you're removing the impurities of the meat, and now we can eat it. Oh, yeah, that's a fatwa from the European Fiqh Council. That contradicts what Allah teaches us. Allah says stay away from the meat of the pig, period. I don't care how long you boil it. I don't care how long you cook it. It's still the flesh of a pig, and we can't eat it. Yeah, be careful of these fiqh councils. These fiqh councils are messed up, man. They're crazy. Not just America's, Europe's, Australia's too. Okay, so these are some of the guidelines and rules that the scholars put together, because you can find many flaws, and you will find many flaws in opinion-based interpretations. Like I just gave you the example with the high heel shoes. There's nothing in Islam that forbids a woman from wearing heels on her shoes. Okay? Colors. There's nothing in Islam that forbids women from wearing colors, covering the face. There's nothing in Islam that forbids a woman from showing her face either, or her hands. Okay? A lot of flaws in those type of tafsirs. And also, in general, any explanation that's represented by the Shiite or the mystic Sufis or the Mu'tazilite, we don't deal with them at all, because these people are seeking out hidden meanings of the Quran. We don't look for hidden meanings. Allah said, I have perfected your religion for you. Allah didn't put hidden meanings in the Quran. So the Shiite, the mystic Sufis, the Mu'tazilite, we leave their interpretations alone, because they deal with hidden meanings. And let's speak about one such tafsir. There's 3 different categories of Tafsir Bil Rayi, or Rayi. That's it. Opinion-based tafsir. The first kind is a Tafsir al-Ash'ari. Many of you have heard this term Ash'ari being used a lot. This is also a name of a deviant group of Muslims, okay? They call themselves people of the Salaf, or they follow the Salafi minhaj, so they say, but they got some issues. A Tafsir al-Ash'ari al-Batini, okay? They believe in the hidden meaning, al-Batin. That's one of Allah's names, the hidden. These are people that try to interpret the Quran based on the hidden meanings. And this is very popular amongst the Sufis. This is very popular amongst the Shia. Okay? And what they do, the mystic Sufis and Shia, they will explain a verse according to hidden meanings that may or may not be supported. Okay? They don't give no hadith. They don't give no other verse from the Quran taught to us by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or his companions. They just give hidden meanings, like the meaning of the number 19. How many of you heard that? The 19 angels and 1919, the hidden meaning of the number 19. And when we talk about Tafsir al-Ishari, there's 3 different types of it. And I'm going to go over these hidden interpretations. A Tafsir al-Ishari, hidden interpretations of the Quran. Let's take a look at them. The first type, the meaning of a verse of the Quran may be correct, but the method in which the interpreter derived the meaning from the text is correct too. Okay, let's take a look at that again. The first type with accepted, I forgot to read that part. These are the accepted hidden meanings. There's in other words, a verse of the Quran. I'm going to give you the meaning of it. The meaning of it is not clear, but I'm going to give you the correct meaning of it based on a hadith given to us by the companions that explains it. And I'm using that example of Ibn Abbas. When we went over this one before in Surah An-Nasr, where where Allah says in the interpretation of meaning, when the victory of Allah has come and the conquest, and you see the people entering into the religion of Allah in multitudes, then glorify him with praises and seek forgiveness. Indeed, he is ever accepting of repentance. There is a hidden meaning here. How do we know what the hidden meaning is? Well, Ibn Abbas told us. He said this verse is a sign from Allah to his prophet, letting the prophet Muhammad know that he's about to die. When Allah sent this verse down, the meaning was not apparent to you and me, but it was apparent to the prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Allah sent that verse down during his final Hajj, when he made his Hajj, the only Hajj he made, when he made his Hajj, when the prophet read that verse, he was so solemn and no one knew why. Because the prophet understood that this was Allah letting him know, your time is done, O Muhammad. Your time is done. So I'm getting ready to bring you back to me. So that's a verse that has a hidden meaning that was not obvious to anyone but our prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the prophet told Ibn Abbas and the other companions what it meant. So this type of opinionated explanation we can accept. This type of hidden interpretation we accept because it's hidden but explained to us by the companions. Am I making that clear? Because that can get kind of confusing. Is that clear before I continue? Somebody speak from Zoom. I mean, a Fresno, is this clear?
It kind of.
So that's a verse that has a hidden meaning. When you read that verse, you don't know what Allah is talking about. It's not obvious to you and me, but it was obvious to the prophet. The meaning was hidden from us, but it was not hidden from him. It was Allah's way of telling him he about to die. And Ibn Abbas told us that's what it meant. Okay, we accept that. Okay. The second type of hidden explanation is the kind that's known as being blameworthy. That's a Tafsir al-Ishari, al-Batini, that is blameworthy. What does that mean? That means the meaning is correct, but the way the person went to get the meaning was not correct. That's what I was getting ready to explain the first time. I forgot I put that after this. I meant to write this one first and the other one second. In other words, remember the hadith we talked about where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not answer questions about Islam unless you qualify, unless you know what you're saying, because even if the answer you give is right, you're still going to be punished because you put yourself in a position that you ain't qualified to do. Y'all remember that hadith in our hadith class? Well, that's what this is talking about. Even though your answer was correct, even though your explanation was correct, the way you went about getting the meaning was not correct. You guessed. I guessed and gave you an answer. I'm still committing a sin if I ain't qualified. I should have said I didn't know. Okay? Well, in this case, the meaning is accepted, but the way you did it was wrong. Okay? In other words, you didn't use evidence. In other words, you didn't base the meaning on what the companion said. You didn't base the meaning on what the prophet said. You didn't base the meaning on anything except what you heard through the grapevine, or you guessed it. This type of scholarship should not be followed because it leads to innovation. And unfortunately, guys, 98%, I repeat, 98%, I repeat again, 98% of the people y'all listen to on YouTube and on the internet who y'all think are teaching you Islam, they guessing. Or they're using a fatwa from somebody else. Or they're just telling you what they heard. If you were to break them down and ask them to explain how they got to that answer, they can't. If you were to ask them, why is it that a woman can't wear hijab? They can't break it down. They'll come up with all these reasons, but ain't none of them what the prophet said. Ain't none of those reasons what Aisha said. They'll tell you that a hijab is your badge of glory. That's stupidity. They'll tell you that a hijab is my honor. A hijab represents my modesty. They'll give you all these stupid answers. They'll even tell you Mary wore hijab. Did she? They'll give you all these stupid answers that are not derived, that are not derived from the right sources. Is that why the prophet explained we wear it? Is that why Aisha said we were told to cover? No. And these women are innovators, most of them. They sitting there telling you why you wear a hijab, and then when they stand up, their feet are showing. These women don't wear closed-toed shoes. They got on sandals showing the top of their feet. Or they got on straight-leg blue jeans. Or they got a turban on their head. Or they got on a tight-fitting body shirt with a skirt. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. These crazy women. So we don't accept this garbage. That's why I tell y'all, be careful who you take your knowledge from. If a person cannot break down and explain something with the reference from the hadith and the companions, then y'all don't need to listen to them. Islam is only based on two sources, the Quran and the Sunnah. It ain't based on Einstein. It ain't based on what you think the Virgin Mary did. It ain't based on your heart. It's based on what did the companions say? What did they do? What did the prophet say? What did he order us to do? If they can't base it on that, then y'all say this person's a numbskull. Okay? And the third type, This is the type of hidden interpretation that has a meaning or an explanation that is false. Both the meaning and the way the person came to that meaning is rejected because it's wrong. This comes from a person who's a deviant scholar. This is a person that is misguided. This is a person that should be warned against. These are the people, that will cause you to innovate in the deen, to twirl around in circles, for the women to pray next to a man, for a woman to lead men in prayer. An example of this existed, during the time of the early Muslims. Let's talk about the Shiite. The Shiite, why are they one of the worst groups? Many of them are not even considered Muslim because of what they say out their mouths about the companions of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let me give an example. There's a verse of the Quran where Allah says, in the interpretation of the meaning, Allah, I am commanding you to slaughter a cow. Now, a person would read this verse and say, what is Allah talking about? Well, we know he's talking to the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But why is he telling the Prophet Muhammad to slaughter a cow? Y'all want to know what the Shiites say? The Shiites say that the Shiites say that the cow in this verse is Aisha, astaghfirullah. They say that this is the verse of the Quran where Allah is commanding the Prophet to kill Aisha because she was an adulteress. Can y'all believe that filth? Oh yeah, I told y'all. Aisha is the most hated, the most infamous woman of all times. She's notorious. To this day, she's notorious. To this day, she's the most hated companion of them all. Thanks to the Shiites and other kafirs like that who want to slander her. So we don't accept garbage like that. You're going to read this verse and say, oh, when Allah says, I am commanding you, Muhammad, to slaughter a cow, that means Allah was commanding the Prophet to kill Aisha. Astaghfirullah. We don't accept no interpretations from these people. We don't accept nothing from them. Do y'all understand that? Okay? And that's why. This is another reason why, for the person that asked me the question on Friday, we don't go around calling anybody kafirs. I tell y'all that. Because if that person you calling a kafir is not a kafir, you will become one, or your children, or your grandkids. But if you know some Shiites who are sitting up talking about the Prophet's companions in a bad way, they are kafir. Those are the only ones you can call kafir. Anyone who slanders the Prophet's companions, his wives, the mothers of the believers, they have the curse of Allah on them. Allah himself says, I will become a ferocious lion against anyone who harms any of my awliya, my allies. Okay? And then we have the also the Mu'tazila. Y'all hear me talk about them a lot. The Mu'tazila interpretation. What's the Mu'tazila? These are another deviant set. Most of these Muslims in America, many of them are Mu'tazila. This is another deviant set that places the intellect and science above the revelation. And many of you have heard of the Tafsir book called El Kashaf. Look at this man's name. This name came up in my Zoom room last week. What about the Tafsir by Kashari? Kashari is a Mutazilite, as I told the sister that asked me about it. And we don't deal with his tafsir. His tafsir is very popular. What makes his tafsir book popular? His tafsir book is more popular than Ibn Kathir. Y'all want to know why? It's because of the eloquence of the Arabic language he uses. Okay? But he's got a lot of innovations in there. He displays bad etiquettes. He's very disrespectful to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions. And not only do the Shiites, some of the Shiites groups like to use his tafsir. And the person that asked me about it, I knew that she comes from a Shiite family, although she's of the Sunnah. She's one of my dear-born Michigan kids who grew up here. Her family is Shiite, but she's not the kind to go around cursing the companions. She's that other group. And I knew when she asked me about it, she was talking about because her family uses that. And believe it or not only do the Shiites use his tafsir, but some of these Harvard brothers, oh yeah, these brothers here in America that's advocating for y'all to go out and vote in the elections, that's advocating for y'all to have the women pray next to you. They're advocating for women to lead the prayers. These brothers use this book too. Why? Because of the Arabic language. Remember, a lot of people think that in order to get to paradise, you got to know how to speak Arabic. And that's garbage. Nowhere did Allah say that. Language comes from him. If he can understand a goldfish, if he can understand the language of an ant, what do you mean he ain't going to understand you? Are you people crazy? But because these men and women put all this emphasis on being Arabiya, they still use this book. Even though this man has a lot of bad things to say about the companions and about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam too. All right. So those are the different type of books that are being used today for tafsir. Like